Welcome to the Tempo Storm Meta Snapshot Breakdown. Following the nerfs, the meta has changed quite a bit. With Tempo Rogue being weakened significantly, there has been more room for different decks to climb up the tier list. The standard ladder finds itself in a more aggressive state, as Warrior falls from the top. Don't be fooled though, Warrior's drop-off in power isn't from the Archivist Elysiana nerf, but is due to Rogue seeing less play. By losing its best matchup, Warrior struggles a lot more to hold its own at the top. The deck is still powerful due to the good cards that Warrior has access to, but it struggles more than before. The Rogue nerfs definitely had an effect on the archetype, leaving the deck to fall from power significantly. Rogue as a class is still holding its own, as the Thief archetype is still strong. Before we take a look at Tier 1, make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with our Hearthstone content. Now let's jump right in. As expected, Cyclone Giants Mage takes the top spot on the tier list after the nerfs. The archetype was already powerful, but with its bad matchups being nerfed and Mage left untouched, the deck was left to skyrocket to the top. Cyclone Giants Mage abuses the cheap cost of Mountain Giant in combination with Conjurer's Calling, giving the Mage huge swing turns early in the game. Even if a deck can somehow stave off the pressure, the Mage has access to Mana Cyclone to refuel. Cyclone Giants Mage excels against slower decks that struggle with the continual large threats that the Mage can pump out. Decks such as Bomb Warrior can't compete with the Mage. Mage has a hard time beating decks that can either be extremely fast or can prevent the Mage from using its threats well. Two prime examples of this are Aggro Mech Hunter and Holy Wrath Paladin. Midrange Hunter finds itself in Tier 1 for this snapshot. The deck narrowly missed being labeled as the best deck in the tier, as it seems ever so slightly weaker than Cyclone Giants Mage. As time progresses and lists adapt, it's possible that Hunter may take the throne once again. Even without Deathstalker Rexar, Midrange Hunter is a very versatile archetype that can find its wins in nearly any spot. Whether they choose to play the aggressive role or they take on a more defensive one, Hunter can always find a way out of sticky situations. Midrange Hunter performs best against the Conjurer Calling based mage decks, as the Hunter can relentlessly apply pressure and use Deadly Shot to clear up threats when needed. As for bad matchups, Hunter falls prey to faster aggro decks like Murloc Shaman, as their boards are very difficult to effectively clear. If you're facing a lot of these shamans, consider adding Hungry Crabs to give yourself a better chance in the matchup. Bomb Warrior continues to be a driving force in the meta, as it wasn't affected from the balance changes. The deck can consistently apply pressure while controlling the board. Bomb Warrior is still a controversial deck, in the sense that some players aren't too fond of games being decided by draw RNG. Bomb Warrior does well against aggressive decks as it can easily clear their board while summoning their own threats. Murloc Shaman is a prime example of this, as it struggles to regain board once it's lost. As with all slower warrior archetypes, the deck struggles to compete with any form of Conjurer's Mage, as the constant pressure and threats are too difficult to remove. Rounding off Tier 1 is Thief Rogue. Following all the nerfs to Rogue, the archetype has shifted into a slightly new playstyle. While it's similar to the previous tempo build in some senses, this deck is much less aggressive and plays more for swing turns, abusing the power of Vendetta in conjunction with the cards that allow you to steal from opponents' classes. Thief Rogue plays like a true tempo deck. Unlike Tempo Rogue, Thief Rogue does well against Control Warrior. The reasoning for this is that the deck is really fast, and has huge swing turns with Spirit of the Shark. On top of this, the Rogue also has access to Togwaggle's Scheme, preventing the Warrior from fatiguing them out. Thief Rogue has a difficult time against Bomb Warrior, as they can apply a solid amount of pressure early, and can use the bombs to disrupt your cycle game plan. As there haven't been any new decks added to the tier list, we thought we should take a look at a deck that has seen a significant rise in play rate recently. Holy Wrath Paladin was played quite frequently prior to the set rotation that happened earlier in the year. Players assumed this deck would be insanely good, as it didn't lose many tools, but the deck struggled to keep up with Tempo Rogue and couldn't close the game out easily against Control Warrior. As these archetypes fizzle out in the meta, Holy Wrath Paladin sees a massive rise in play. Consider trying this out if you're looking for a highly competitive deck that's also super entertaining to play. Tier 2 has fewer decks in it than in previous snapshots. This has to do with the power level of decks being much closer to one another following the nerfs. All of these decks are good choices for ladder, and all have their own ups and downs. Let's take a look at the top decks within Tier 2. Control Warrior falls to Tier 2 in this meta snapshot. Although it was slightly nerfed, its lack of recent success is more attributed to the Rogue nerfs. With Tempo Rogue dying down, Control Warrior lost one of its best matchups, making the deck less well-rounded against the meta. The Rogue nerf also brought a rise to some decks that can bully Control Warrior. As expected, Control Warrior does best against aggressive board-centric decks like Murloc Shaman. Control Warrior now struggles against the dominant Rogue archetype in Thief Rogue, as Rogue simply has too much value for the Warrior to beat. Aggro Mech Hunter finds itself sitting in Tier 2 once again. While it wasn't touched during the balance changes, as the deck is very fair, one of its best matchups has been seeing less play. So Aggro Mech Hunter is one of the best decks to play against both Conjure Mage archetypes, as you can apply relentless pressure and even deal with the large threats somewhat consistently. This variant of Hunter struggles to keep up with other aggressive decks, such as Murloc Shaman, as they can fight for board and continue to generate pressure with Underbelly Angler, making it hard for them to ever run out of gas. Murloc Shaman is the final deck that we'll be looking at within Tier 2. Previously found in the depths of Tier 3, the deck has abused the Murloc synergy to take advantage of slower decks, such as Mage. With less Tempo Rogue and Control Warriors on ladder, Murloc Shaman naturally has had the room to climb. Dragon Conjurer Mage is by far the best matchup for Murloc Shaman, as you can effectively play your own game. As you'd expect, Murloc Shaman continues to struggle against control decks such as Warrior, as the consistent removal is simply too difficult for the Shaman to deal with. Countering the meta becomes more difficult as Tier 1 gets wider. The more decks that you see frequently, the less chance you'll hit the decks you're targeting. On that note, sometimes you can find a deck that can actually beat the majority of the top decks. In this case, Zoo Warlock can do just that. While it struggles against Bomb Warrior, it has a good matchup against the rest of the Tier 1 decks. If Zoo wasn't as low power level as it was now, it's likely the deck would be swarming ladder. As expected, Zoo will struggle against lower control decks. So if you are running into a lot of Warrior, consider trying something else. If you decide to pick up Zoo Warlock, let us know how it's doing for you in the comments below. In conclusion, while the nerfs may have been heavily targeted towards the Rogue class, they definitely have opened the meta up significantly. This has allowed for many decks to compete with the top ones, making the meta feel more refreshing to play in. Hopefully this becomes the standard for card changes in the future, especially in the upcoming June patch. Thank you for watching our Meta Snapshot breakdown. We wish you the best of luck on the ladder, and hope you can use this to climb higher than ever before. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to keep up with our Tepestorm news and Hearthstone content. We'll see you next time.